You're retro trekking with the Caramel Apples, a podcast where the topic is rarely about apples. This week is quite special, an exciting treat, because when it comes to some serious blast from the past nostalgia, we've got you covered. What on earth could be on the caramel docket this week? In anticipated celebration of the 50th anniversary of a most beloved, blast from the past nostalgic realm of satirical comedy goodness, set to air in a lead up to a 3-hour live primetime special on Sunday, February 16th, 2025. Listen in as we Carmel rewind back to the classics and key players' true entertainment in the realm of true comedy fodder found in SNL, or better known as Saturday Night Live. Live from New York, it's Saturday night. Now here's your host, Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee. Coop, this is such an awesome episode we're about to embark on. And to be quite honest, this topic is pretty much top tier pop culture in the way of comedic nostalgia. So many people have the real and raw memories of yesteryear, of early skits and alumni of SNL. So this is a serious nod to the Caramelicious Saturday Night Live discussion right here in the Retro Orchard. Happy 50!
That's right, Kennard. And I'd like to quickly tap into some of that warm nostalgia and thinking fondly on, consistently on those Saturday nights in those cool early years. Folks young and old alike, but especially young people, because they were eagerly gathered around the family television to watch the Lorne Michaels production that served up counterculture to the mass market via the not ready for primetime players. So here you'll find sketches, behind the scene clips, and goodness knows what else. And we'll get into that here stat. But first, the Caramel Drill, Orchard Archivers. We just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button and visit us on the Gram, X, and TikTok. Also, check out our official website, RetroTrekwithTheCaramelApples.com, to see all the latest and greatest updates going down in the Retro Orchard. Okay, this week's episode is set to be most anticipated as well as entertaining.
We have a lot to discuss, so let's get started.
I'm ready.
All right. So in celebrating the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, what was the caramel mojo, if you will, that launched and fueled the raw success of the comedy skit show Saturday Night Live that's now ushered in a 50th celebration of its existence? The stuff of many a retro buff's early memories of the show. Let's find out.
Well, Saturday Night Live, SNL, is a late-night live skit comedy variety show of which was the brainchild or created by Lorne Michaels and developed by Michaels and Dick Ebersol. That airs on the NBC network. Fun fact, did you know and or remember that the show's premiere was hosted by the infamous comedian George Carlin on NBC October 11th, 1975? Under the original title, NBC's Saturday Night. Also, another crazy famous host, Richard Pryor, did the honors later that same year in 1975.
Okay, those are already two heavy hitter powerhouse names with comedy. How can you go wrong? I mean, it's like we just started and you're already going like, woo, this is going to be a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, they're like, are we creating a hit? Check.
Do you have some powerhouse heavy hitters? Check, check. Oh, that's too cool for school, Cooper. I'd like to share an eye-catching 1975 quote and review given by the New Yorker's Mr. Michael J. Arlen where he stated about the allure and appeal of Saturday Night Live. And I quote, "What is attractive and unusual about the program is that it is an attempt, finally, to provide entertainment on television in a recognizable human, non celebrity voice, and in a voice too, tries to deal with the morass of media induced show business culture that increasingly pervades American life." End quote. So that's an interesting take on what message the creative execs wish to express through the medium of early SNL. And he isn't wrong. But also like to add in lieu of that particular reference, there is a program right now on a popular streaming service. It starts with a capital N. Right? That's a mystery. So this streaming platform takes you behind the coolest nostalgic scenes of that October 11th premiere night of Saturday Night Live, which was entitled then Saturday Night.
Oh, really? That sounds interesting.
It was. And one of the coolest details of this particular project was the cast of characters playing some of the original SNL alumni. Coop, they look so much like the actual actors and comedians of Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to easily discern who might have been who back in the early days just by who they chose for their offering their program, their documentary or whatever. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the resemblance to most of the characters was uncanny. Featured was a young producer, Lorne Michaels, John Belushi. Remember, this is all taking place in the year 1975. So it was a retro period piece that they actually crafted and detailed so well. The hair, the big glasses, the clothes, of course. You know, sometimes they'll get some of the details, but not all of the details. But
Right. Yes.
when you're watching this, it looks like you feel like you're back in 1975, or you got a good view of it.
That is insane.
They also showcased Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, George Carlin, Billy Crystal, Jane Curtin, Garrett Morris, Lorraine Newman, Gilda Radner, and George Coe.
Oh, wow. So it really was a Caramelicious offering of early 70s retro goodness, huh? Wait.
Yes. Sweet.
Now, this I'd like to quickly share before we move on, in particular about the early cast of actors and comedians. We kind of did a spoiler if you happen to catch it, but here goes again. Fun fact. The cast, those ever famous names we so easily associate with the green years of Saturday Night Live, did you know that the cast was nicknamed the Not Ready for Primetime Players? A term coined by the show's writer, Herb Sargent.
Well, well, well. What a nice turn of events when thinking of SNL celebrating their 50th anniversary. Guess they were ready.
Yeah, right?
Well, eventually.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoyed the retro period piece, as I just was describing, because they really did get the message across about what they were trying to portray for saying, hey, this is how this started. And they placed a lot of careful attention to the casting with the familiar characters of Saturday Night Live. I can't stress it enough. The details and raw references of what went on behind the scenes and how they prepared for the launch of this media success. A lot of the unpredictability surrounding the late John Belushi, him wearing his darling Bumblebee references and costumes. Like, there were skits where they were dressed up as bees.
It's cute.
It was really cute. And it was pretty entertaining precursor to what the show's aim and message was truly about. So I enjoyed it, and I easily identified the players when watching. So again, like if you ever get a chance, maybe to give it a peep out, Coop or Orchard Archivers. I mean, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's pretty interesting.
Well, I love the fact, like you mentioned, that they seem to try to get so close to you understanding who they were portraying. Like they didn't just throw a bunch of people in and say, okay, here you go. Like it sounds like they were really
Yes.
trying to nail features and things like that. So they'd be
Yeah.
very recognizable. It's like, okay, you're putting that much effort into it. That sounds like something you'd want to watch.
Which is what we miss in entertainment. Like take your time and craft it properly, right?
Absolutely. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's why here talking about SNL, their 50th celebration. I mean, come on now. I mean, yeah, that's not an accident. Something was done to make sure that this kind of rose to the top and showcased. It's like one of many retro pop culture offerings. So we're so happy about that. Yes.
Yay!
Good stuff, real and raw. But I will caution viewer discretion is probably advised with young ones around because I mean, this was back in the 70s and they are doing stuff like there are references of blunts and that kind of stuff. So just be
Right.
mindful of that.
Yeah, yeah. So Saturday Night Live was chock full of comedy skits, which often parodied contemporary American culture and politics. And they are performed by a large and varying cast of repertory and newer cast members.
Each episode is hosted by a celebrity guest who usually delivers the opening monologue and performs in sketches with the cast, with featured performances by a musical guest. This is still a much anticipated practice in the current format of SNL. The episode normally begins with a cold open sketch that is usually based on political events and ends with someone breaking character and proclaiming, "Live from New York, it's Saturday night." And that usually properly begins the show, too. Mm-hmm.
That is so iconic. Like if you've never seen the show, you've at least heard that line.
100%.
And Saturday Night Live, as it was originally known as NBC's Saturday Night, was on air from 1975 through 1977, and Saturday Night Live 80 was 1980. Coincidentally, has played a prominent role in American pop culture and television since its inception, and changing attitudes towards cultural diversity have been evident, particularly in its recent history, which isn't a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Fun fact, the long-running American late-night sketch comedy show was initially called NBC's Saturday Night, as we just briefly referenced, and envisioned as something closer to a traditional variety show. The program was developed as a replacement for reruns of The Tonight Show and quickly became a staple of late-night television.
Oh my goodness. They did this a lot as an easy offering on the networks as they were, writing and catching up on the latest seasonal offerings of any given show. So this was big back then, and we so remember this.
Oh, it sure was. I mean, just hearing and talking about SNL and The Tonight Show really easily redirects the brain and takes one back effortlessly towards this obvious familiarity. This is really what was the going entertainment consisted of as a bona fide staple, if you will, of what was offered up on retro television back then, and many more. I guess we can say that it's a complete part of our Caramelicious retro memories.
You're nuts, Coop. I see what you did there. Hashtag facts. So invariably true thoughts you mentioned there. But here's where our discussion takes a noticeable comprehensive turn in regards to the series. And after we state what that is, The nostalgia of what SNL provided for the die-hard, rabid fan base exploded in popularity due to the raw material and talent showcased therein, truly made its mark and impact on pop culture. So one may easily ask, what became of the very first cast? Let's say the freshman class of Saturday Night Live.
Oh my, this is where it's at. Let's get to it.
Okay, then. You have me convinced. Perfect for discussion surrounding our designated decade time parameters, it is duly noted that the early years of SNL were dominated by its initial cast of performers, which again became known as the Not Ready for Primetime Players, and included such performers as Chevy Chase, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, and Gilda Radner. They were a few of the beneficiaries of the premium that decade placed on authenticity. The cast members soon became famous during the first season, and the show became immediately known for its mix of satirical humor, political commentary, and celebrity impersonations, quickly developing a cult following. As all Genius Media offerings do, we are not surprised.
Okay.
Saturday Night Live is nothing short of genius, which is how and why we're even able to chat about this, as we mentioned previously. It is said that Lorne Michaels actually left the program in 1980, to where the program was executive produced by associate producer Gene Dumanian for a year, then Dick Ebersol for several years before Lorne Michaels returned in 1985.
Correct. After an unstable 1985-86 season, he introduced a new refreshed cast featuring performers like Phil Hartman and Dana Carvey, stabilizing the Saturday Night Live production and helping to restore its popularity.
Phew, that was close.
Right, agreed. Those two are a couple of comedic heavy hitters. And it's interesting to note, too, that Lorne Michaels also reintroduced political satire of figures such as George H.W. Bush, an element of the series that had been deprioritized during the Dick Ebersol era.
Oh, Coop, those names right there are a couple of powerhouse names that are such a blast from the past. I can't wait to dig into some of the things the old school cast bring about. Phil Hartman? Go on. He's nuts. No!
Yeah, you cannot say his name without laughing. He just was that. Like, he embodied comedy. Love it.
Okay.
So we'll definitely get there. Throughout its history, SNL has experienced fluctuations in critical receptions and ratings. The show has launched the careers of numerous comedians and actors, with many cast members going on to successful careers in film and television. Fun fact, as of its 50th season in 2024, Saturday Night Live is one of the longest running programs in television history and has produced over 970 episodes.
That's crazy. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Anybody tired or want to take a nap? Good grief.
Yes, the caramel apples. We're tired.
Yeah. Wow. And it has won numerous awards, including multiple Primetime Emmy Awards, and is often cited for its influence on popular culture and its impact on political satire.
Oh, I love hearing that. I don't know, Coops. SNL was the business. So let's back up for a minute to caramel dissect once again how SNL eventually came to be. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's go there, okay? Speaking of going back a few years, beginning in 1965, NBC network affiliates broadcast reruns of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson on Saturday or Sunday nights. And in 1974, Johnny Carson petitioned to NBC executives for the weekend shows to be pulled and saved so they could be aired during weeknights, allowing him to take time off.
Oh, so Johnny Carson was inadvertently responsible for the creation of SNL.
Apparently. And in response, NBC's president, Herbert Schlosser, approached the vice president of late night programming, Dick Ebersol, and asked him to create a show to fill the Saturday night time slot. The network had a weak Saturday night lineup at the time that garnered poor ratings, and networks had little interest in late night Saturday shows until the mid-70s.
Okay, this 100%. Hate that the people that rag on SNL are also the people who don't watch it, so how do they know? It's talking about how they had a poor Saturday or weekend lineup, like it wasn't a thing, it hadn't caught on yet. But then,
right,
what was there, they're like, oh, pew, stinky, don't like it, and then trash it. Someone might watch one sketch that didn't resonate with them, and then all of a sudden the entire show isn't funny. So many people are easily provoked. Yes, or offended, and may pass quick judgment on any and everything.
No, 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 no! No, please, no!
Yeah, it's even way worse nowadays. People overall have gotten so picky, so soft. Like, where's the wonder, the adventure?
Good question there, Coop. It's like they've generally missed the whole point of it all. And that's the whole reason or purpose of Saturday Night Live's comedically unique objective. It's a sketch comedy show, full of satire. Because if one sketch doesn't work, there's another, and another to try out. And another. Some sketches land, some don't. Some land with a certain audience, while others don't get it.
And they keep them coming, yes.
Comedy is highly suggestive, as everyone has their own tastes and interests in what they do or don't find funny. The reel and roll of old school comedy fodder right there.
Yeah, Kennedy, this is both an interesting and insane take. The biggest, funniest movie stars have come out of the earlier alumni of SNL, including Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, and Bill Murray. And ever heard of these guys?
More good names. Wait, that's a mystery.
Yeah, I thought so. We actually did a whole Orchard Trek retro surrounding the goofy, entertaining talents of Adam Sandler and The Wedding Singer. And we'll definitely link it in the show notes, so feel free to check it out if you feel so inclined. Incredibly wealthy, talented, and highly regarded. I believe I could make a list of 50 great SNL alums.
Yeah, I think it would be easy. Because like this show, again, they're celebrating 50. It's like these are definitely names and personas we've heard of. We've seen them do stupid stuff and say stupid stuff to make us laugh. So I think that your list would probably be a list of pure genius, but they've already done it for us, so. Nice try, Coop. You're at least in agreement with them.
Thank you.
So the list of pure genius that already exists with Saturday Night Live greats in honor of Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary celebration. Yeah, this is pretty exciting. This is a big deal. I imagine the 70s, 80s, and even 90s SNL writers' meetings were nothing short of glorious collaborations of vicious criticism of stupid ideas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And praise for great ideas. That's what made them work so hard for skits that were memorable. Today, we just praise any idea, or rather some stale rehashing anyone comes up with, or they may have a complete mental collapse, which we see all around us. as some recent Saturday Night Live members have admitted to.
So fun fact, the first season of Saturday Night that premiered on October 11th of 1975 kicked off the nearly, get this, 1,000 Saturday Night Live episodes that have aired in the time slot since.
Oh, that's crazy. Wonderful.
They did this with a cold open sketch entitled The Wolverines, which showcased a scene starring a young comedian musician of the name John Belushi opposite the new show head writer, Michael O'Donoghue. More on him later. At its conclusion, Chevy Chase walks out on stage, looks into the camera, and utters the infamous catchphrase many a Saturday Night Live retro buff knows all too well. Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
I love Chevy Chase. He's nuts. So began the very first episode of Saturday Night Live, which again wasn't the show's original title at the time back in 1975. There may have been a good reason for that.
Indeed. Fun fact, the NBC network uses Saturday Night because there was already a show on ABC network called Saturday Night Live with Howard Cosell. NBC would soon switch the name 2 years later in 1977 to what we know it to be now. While SNL's inaugural season was truly a brave but brilliant experiment in live comedy, it's important to realize that it formed the basis for what's become an interesting institution, and its obvious success was propelled by its then young, mostly unknown cast. But boy, do we know some of the famous alumni Saturday Night Live launched back from those early days.
Hashtag word.
Many a brilliant and raw comedian, bringing their absolute crazy best to the small screen.
Yes. Coop, like the ever-famous gaggle of cast members that came after the original SNL alumni. You know, we think of the likes of Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, David Spade, Adam Sandler, Chris Farley. Eddie Murphy. Saturday Night Live truly ignited these performers' careers on fire. So regardless of what happened off screen in the years after they departed the show, and truly, make no mistake, quite a lot happened there. As you can readily witness in that Saturday night offering on the Capitol popular M streaming platform. They'll always be the cast that started it all. And we proudly award them with a Caramelicious well done.
So on that note, fun fact, the original cast known as the Not Ready for Primetime Players was a direct reference to their main competition on ABC's Saturday Night Live with Howard Cosell. If you rabid retro buffs remember, ABC's version and offering ran for only 18 episodes, was the then sports announcer Howard Cosell stab at the comedy format. Its own rotating group of performers were referred to as the Primetime Players, which is surprisingly noted that that cast on ABC included the nutty, talented Bill Murray, who'd go on to join the NBC Saturday Night Live cast in 1977. More on him here a bit, too. He crossed over to the dark side.
Brilliant. Oh, all right. All things Darth Vader there, kid. Oh, that's another good comedian and performer. We can't go wrong with Bill Murray.
No, no.
Bill Murray's a freaking legend.
He really is.
And I just love learning a lot of the backstory of so many of our cherished retro topics, Coop. Now, let's briefly get into the original cast and alumni career nods that stemmed from the early days of SNL. Let's start with Gilda Radner.
Okay, Gilda Radner was a Saturday Night Live. She was on it from 1975 to 1980 when she left the show. Great comedic female talent right here and could run and ride with the best of them. She actually won a coveted Emmy Award for her work on the show in 1978. Sadly, she passed away from ovarian cancer in 1989 at the age of 42. That's so young. Fun fact, if Gilda Radner's name sounds familiar to you other than being connected to Saturday Night Live, then it's probably because she was the life and true love of another beloved actor, that of the great late Gene
That's
Wilder.
right.
Willy Wonka himself.
Where's the chocolate? No, I'm just kidding. What a cool legacy and fun fact you shared about Gilda Radner. Thanks for sharing that. Next, we'll make brief remarks on Mr. Dan Aykroyd. You know, I guess the native Canadian first met Lorne Michaels as a young teenager on the Canadian comedy circuit. So they had some early history there.
Appears so. Fun fact, did you know that Dan Aykroyd was the youngest of the original Not Ready for Primetime Players? It is also noted that Aykroyd, too, in 1977, won an Emmy for his valuable contribution to Saturday Night Live just before leaving the show 2 years later in 1979. Dan Aykroyd was a true sketch performer who threw himself into his impressions.
He was nuts, too. Yeah.
He was truly funny. I mean, they're just belting him out at this point, right?
Yes.
So funny. And another Emmy, we can see that ever-developing theme of the type of performance and talent we got going on here.
Not an accident by any stretch of the imagination, Coop. Especially with the Emmy wins. We're just getting revved up. First Gilda Radner, then Dan Aykroyd. Who's next on our caramel docket, Coop? Hit me!
Oh, well, we have the ever-hilarious, super nutty Chevy Chase. Mm-hmm.
There it is.
It said that he had written National Lampoon and other media contributions right before joining the Not Ready for Primetime Players. Fun fact, Lorne Michaels actually hired Chevy Chase initially as a writer for Saturday Night Live, but shortly after quickly becoming one of SNL's key on-screen stars. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, we needed him.
Oh,
He's certifiable. Let's just call it like we see it.
yes.
Yeah, that's being kind.
That's putting it very lightly.
And remember, Coop, the segment where they staged as anchors on the Weekend Update. Yeah, they're nuts. During the first 5 or 6 weeks of the show, Chevy Chase hilariously took the opportunity to share with his audience his name by saying, "I'm Chevy Chase and you're not."
What a mess. Yeah.
I believe Rowdy Roddy Piper used that expression a time or two as well. Anyway, Chevy Chase left Saturday Night Live midway through season 2. He too won not 1, not 2, but 3 Emmys for his brilliant performances during his brief tenure. So that's quite impressive, right?
It is certainly a clap for him. Wow. So Chevy Chase has gone on to grace many a great retro movie or 20 we enjoyed. I'm thinking of wild cinema contributions like the National Lampoon's franchise. Fletch.
Peter!
And we can't forget about his work in Caddyshack.
Thank you, Chase.
Nothing short of pure comedy brilliance right here. As part of the early SNL alumni, Chevy Chase is an awesome example of comedic excellence. We, the audience, eagerly anticipate and look forward to when seeking to be entertained. Well done.
Right. The album from Saturday Night Live are truly slapstick in its daring Caramelicious form. Well done, Mr. Chevy Chase. So that's quite the achievement and nod to your craft. All right, next on our caramel docket is Mr. Garrett Morris. We mentioned just a bit ago that Dan Aykroyd was officially the youngest of the not ready for primetime players. Garrett Morris was the eldest of the original cast, as well as SNL's first black cast member. So probably the most overlooked of the original cast, he went on to have a successful and ongoing career. He always kept acting well into his 80s.
Wow.
And then there's that, yes. Yeah. So that was quite the accomplishment right there, especially for that time back in the mid-70s when all that kind of stuff was floating around hardcore. Lord and Lady Douchebag.
Lord and Lady Douchebag.
Isn't that ugly?
It really is. And although he brought it when it came to his Saturday Night Live show performances, it was Garrett Morris's pre-SNL experience that involved a bit more than acting and singing. Fun fact, did you know that Mr. Morris trained at the prestigious Juilliard? Yeah. He performed on Broadway with notable artists such as the Harry Ball Bill Fonte, both singers. There it is. Oh, how is that a tongue twister? Anyway, he was a cast member of the Saturday Night Live's first 5 seasons.
For sure. I can see his face now. Up next, we have Jane Curtin. Pretty much like the rest of her brethren and sistren, Jane Curtin was already performing comedy on stage when she signed on with NBC Saturday Night. She became the first female anchor on the comedy sketch Weekend Update. She later went on to showcase playing an alien desperate to be an everyday American in the Coneheads sketches, which led to the retro classic recreation of that character in the feature film version entitled Coneheads. Yeah, in the year 1993. And I think we did see that. We saw that with our nutty friends, but whatever. She also starred on the small screen in Kate and Alley.
Yes, you're right. We did see it with the Girl Squad.
Nice.
And I do so remember her and Kate and Alley, Kennard. So cool. Now, we're going to take a look at Lorraine Newman, coined as the best improviser among the original cast. Lorraine made a point to keep to her sensibilities and would generally refrain from repeating characters. I know, right? That's a cool angle of having this type of shoot from the hip type of talent, if you will, in my humble opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, Kennard. Of course, repeating characters has become sort of a fingerprint of success for various Saturday Night Live characters. So if whenever you decide to implement this in their style, we're okay with that. We ain't mad. So what exactly is her connection to being a key player for SNL? Fun fact, prior to joining the cast, did you know that Lorraine Newman was a founding member of LA's Groundling comedy troupe, which paved the way or influenced future subsequent SNL members like Kristen Wiig, Will Ferrell, and Maya Rudolph. Not surprisingly, buzz about LA's Groundling comedy troupe, along with Lorraine Newman, captured Lorne Michaels' attention, which ushered in her into the Not Ready for Primetime Players alumni for 5 seasons.
And we're rocking and rolling on our caramel contribution to the 50th anniversary edition episode of Saturday Night Live. So who was the host of Saturday Night Live? Another legendary stand-up comedian, George Carlin, who is so many rabid retro minds and hearts as one of the OGs in classic raw comedic prowess. I like and always enjoyed watching the late George Carlin. He's just ornery and isn't afraid to tell it like it is, no matter the subject. It's just a weird and disappointing turn of events in recent years.
Yeah, straight up walking on eggshells, which kills the magic, the power of creating, skillfully ad-libbing, dialing up laughter with a good skit, punchline, or joke. So not only is what's offered in today's current version of SNL, I guess we realize that it still has its loyal fans and ones just clinging onto fond nostalgia of the brand. But honestly, the cast members, sketches, and whatever current that is included surrounding the new SNL alumni and the show itself is a mere shadow of what a fun Saturday Night Live once was. Much like everything else that is offered to we, the audience nowadays, it's a buffet of leftover rehash that neither represents talent or easy ha-has, It's a sad turn of events, really. And we talk about this in length quite often about this here at the Retro Orchard. So you Orchard Archivers, how do you feel about this? Not only on the subject of SNL, but also in other areas of entertainment and current pop culture. We'd love to hear your honest thoughts on this. So hit us up and tag us on any of our designated social media platforms, and feel free to weigh in on the comment section on YouTube. But as we said, this rehashing, watered-down entertainment is ripe everywhere. TV, feature film, cartoons, etc. Seems like most creative outlets are out of gas, literally on fumes.
When it comes to our current entertainment offerings. I mean, like, we rag on this all the time. The only thing you might hear on the regular surrounding any particular actor, show, or movie is the garbage drama that may be going on behind the scenes in in so-and-so's personal lives. Boring. Oh, 100%.
Yawn fest.
But that's what's selling right now, unfortunately. The interest goes way past and beyond the actual so-called talent, like a show like SNL. We steadily get a junk diet of drama on personal stuff going down, which then creates weird buzz surrounding something bigger that they're a part of. So, I'm not going to go long on this. I'm not even going to say their names, but there's this situation where this actress and her entitled husband are harassing this director, fellow actor. I mean, it's like, and they got this wonderful power couple, and we got beautiful babies, and we love the way we look on the red carpet. We're wonderful. And then they are just literally demonizing this actor director. They're just lambasting him with lawsuits and lies and maliciousness, and he is not backing down, though, which I'm glad to see.
That's interesting. But let's take it back to the 80s. Do you remember the Ginsu knives? Let's just say they may be working on an ad for that. Good grief.
And these people are vicious. That's just all it is. It's all about, their stupid, I don't know, what they trying to, you're just a nobody, like the rest of us. Get on.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because like you said, the spouse to the person going and doing all this stuff. He kind of is in the comedic role out there in Hollywood. And it's just interesting to see this side of things. It's like, oh, so you're really not that funny. You don't take life very funny, do you? Like, you're just kind of,
Okay, moving on. Let's go, Coop.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Next, we have a huge highlight, interesting focus specimen on the show, and that would be John Belushi. Now, I describe him and his comedic style as a nice mix between Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase in the sense of his performing character work. As many a hardcore fan knows, he pulled off a distinctive John Belushi style. Character type we're all mostly familiar with, like playing his obnoxious character Bluto and National Lampoon's Animal House, or his nuttiest showcase along with Aykroyd in the Blues Brothers. Yeah. The example of both of the aforementioned roles speak to the perception of John Belushi as a performer.
Character, but his true persona was just as, if not more intriguing as well. So it is said that whenever he would feel borderline feral,
interesting choice of words and angle in describing his ever-changing, unpredictable persona.
It stated he felt like harnessed anarchy. That's when he soared when giving his performances, though. Yeah. So notice this in the show on the popular in-streaming platform, Saturday Night. He also was one of the 3 original cast members to leave the show on his own volition, doing so only after 4 seasons. But on a sad note, John Belushi tragically passed away a few years later after overdosing on a toxic mix of heroin and cocaine. Here we are in the 70s, back then, 75, whatever, at the tender age of 33. So he is and will be missed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do. Curiously, this happened often to the comedic greats. Now, before we talk about our last member of the Not Ready for Primetime Players, remember that earlier we mentioned that Chevy Chase left Saturday Night Live midway through season 2. When Chevy Chase left the show, Saturday Night Live then struck comedy caramel gold with his replacement. Now, whoever could that be? Enter stage right, we have Bill Murray. Gimme, 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 I need. Bill Murray is straight up a comedy legend. Love him.
He was part of the SNL alumni for 4 seasons, and he got even better at his craft post-SNL. It was not a stretch to realize that Bill Murray helped set the proverbial template for what Saturday Night Live could do for you, especially since he wasn't a part of the initial lineup.
Oh, fact, Skinnerd. That's quite profound. Bill Murray went on to have a bigger creative impact in his movie career than any of the original cast members. Surprisingly, that's including Chevy Chase.
Really?
And he's in quite a few successful feature films. Yeah. They even starred in Caddyshack together, which look out for that entertaining consideration soon here on the Retro Orchard. Yes, it is. You won't want to miss this. And we just referenced one of his brilliant quotes from the feature film, What About Bob?
Yes.
That's
that film is an
right?
Easy repeat.
It really is. Facts again. Straight up, Bill Murray really showed his audience, his fans, that he could jump in white hot with all he had and then take off. And take off he did. Can we say Ghostbusters, Peter Venkman?
Now we'll take a moment to reflect on notable comedic talents on who joined in later seasons we like, know and recognize on SNL that, and whose careers sprung from the original Not Ready for Primetime Players who paved the way from the early years circa 1975. We're not helping to Caramel celebrate 50 years in the making for nothing now. Over the decades, naturally, some seasons were better than others, like most other show network offerings, featuring breakout stars such as Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Chris Rock, David Spade, Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, and more following the original Seven's lead.
Take, for instance, Chris Farley. Stand down by the river where his pants kept falling down. We also have Eddie Murphy, who practically dominated his time on Saturday Night Live. It was Eddie Murphy who stood out during his fourth season run from 1980 to 84, playing Mr. Robinson's son, Neighborhood, and Buckwheat. Was a couple of infamous performances. In fact, did you know that Eddie Murphy was hired as a utility guy? Yeah, but in true comedic goofy fashion, wound up saving mid-80s SNL after being promoted to the main cast.
Murphy was the epitome of the 80s, especially with him going on to helm in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. Very 80s. Phil Hartman, who was terribly hilarious as well. He made some of the funniest faces, which, would often fuel his comedic genius. We mentioned that a little bit ago. So he met with a tragic end in his personal life that made breaking headline news. Now any and everything is the norm they endlessly report on, which waters the message or news stories down, literally littering the news cycle constantly. Now, this might not be a popular choice as inclusion for SNL or Saturday Night Live Entertainment, and that was Alec Baldwin. Enough said. You guys fill in the blanks on that
one. We've also got in mind Tina Fey, Maya Rudolph, and many, many more. So many comedic players in the game who's been performing for the eager, hungry audience in love with all things slapstick comedy. We cherish the fond memories offered, in which surrounds the crown jewel of Saturday Night Live. And it all started with the original NBC network offering Saturday Night, thanks to Johnny Carson taking his media summer break.
Right. Much like everything else we often discuss here at the Retro Orchard, so much of the media offerings posing as entertainment just feels wrong anymore. It feels empty and like it's lacking something. The current SNL characters, they're there, I guess, and keeping the ship and legacy brand of Saturday Night Live's going currently. But honestly, it's nothing like what our fun retro discussion of Saturday Night Live was in its heyday, with its electrifying atmosphere and performances, which helped to cement what the network is celebrating in honor of 50 years. So that is no accident, and although there's so much more we could talk about,
like the signature nod to the house band providing that live element of SNL. We think of Paul Schaefer, the pianist, and said house band. That's so signature of these celebrated memorable moments. Fun fact, Paul Schaefer was a key part of the SNL house band for the first 5 seasons. But did you know during the 5th season, he ended up joining the cast for a short time? How short, you might ask? 13 episodes, folks. Yeah, but all's well. Mr. Schaefer later became the band leader and sidekick of David Letterman for decades.
Those late night network bands are synonymous with these types of late night shows. So very nostalgic. Okay, one more cool familiar key player we wish to give honorable mention to in our cool discussion this week of Saturday Night Live's success, and that's to the many producers, directors, and brilliant in-tune writers working their mojo behind the scenes. So one of which is a Michael O'Donoghue. Like, if you are a tried and true SNL fan, you know and readily recognize this name. He was actually SNL's first head writer.
And it's not hard to process or understand that O'Donoghue is a genius cult figure these days, effortlessly remembered for what is described as his pitch black sense of humor and combustible personality. Kennedy. These guys, deeply rooted in Saturday Night Live, were all off the hook. They certainly took their craft observations to the show seriously. They had the desire and drive to entertain the masses, and thankfully entertain they did. Bravo! So a quick last fun fact. There were 12 episodes of the show where he was coined as the cast member, so it was short-lived. But not to worry, O'Donoghue was mostly relegated back to writing, doing the occasional set piece as
Contributions to Saturday Night Live were extremely fascinating, as was our Caramelicious discussion this week. There's so much more we could cover, but instead, we highly encourage you to tune into the actual 50th anniversary celebration of Saturday Night Live, which is set to air in a 3-hour live primetime special on Sunday, February 16th, 2025. Check for your local listings and times. If you are indeed a hardcore Saturday Night Live fan, will you no doubt tune in for the fun times, nostalgic moments, and slapstick of this retro gem with fascinating retro roots of yesteryear? Let us know. Tag us on the gram, YouTube, or X, and let's go all out and ignite this fascinating discussion. We'll end here on a high note, as Coop and myself always strives to do. But this week was a lot of fun. So what do we get from our memories of when actors, comedians, and artists get together to perform short, satirical, hilarious skits on current pop culture, world events, and other ridiculous topics? Tried and true fans would have to agree that as the bottom line, there's probably no better easily entertaining show to watch on Saturday night, at least watching the OGs from back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, and even early 90s. Saturday Night Live is a brilliant, Caramelicious comedy program. It was a unique and terrific show. If you ever need or want of a best comedy sketch type show on retro television, or just a nostalgic pick-me-up, look no further than watching a healthy dose of retro SNL. Always good for an easy, hearty laugh. Happy 50th anniversary, SNL!
And that's it for this week's episode, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Join us again next week when we will be back with more captivating retro entries. Subscribe to Retro Trek with the Caramel Apples podcast and tell us how we're doing. Leave us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast fix. If you have any comments, suggestions, or requests, head over to or tag us on Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok. We love hearing from you. As always, thanks, and see you next time.